It's not about that. It's about saying like, hey man, this is our tradition. Like, we own guns. You have no right to tell us what we do with our guns. Get out of our business.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Conversation with Colin. I'm Greg, and this is my roommate, Colin. Now, sometimes Colin says crazy stuff. So every Tuesday and Thursday, I reach into my random topic pile, pull one out, toss it at him, and we talk it out for your amusement. Colin doesn't know what I'm about to say. If you like that, like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to us on YouTube. Colin, are you ready? Today's topic is gun control, submitted by Fox Cub 156. I think it ties in well with the NRA from @MattMcDonald. Talk to me a little bit about this. This has been a hot button issue in the community. Even, me, totally outside of any of this politics stuff. I don't even watch the news that much anymore because it's so depressing and everything else.
Right.
You can't get away from it.
Right,
A lot of shootings going on.
A lot of shootings, yeah.
A lot of people, now gun control, tip of everyone's tongue. Bring me up to speed on how you feel about gun control.
Depends. I mean, what we're really specifically saying. It's in terms of an assault rifle ban or anything like that, which was very popular and in vogue and obviously enacted in the 90s. I'm against that.
Okay.
I think that there's such a thing as reasonable gun control. There are people that would interpret the Second Amendment to mean any sort of, to mean anything. You could have a nuclear bomb if you wanted to. But obviously there is Supreme Court law that kind of narrows down the scope in which a weapon can be owned, and I'm fine with people owning assault rifles and things of this nature. I think
Why? Just because of the Second Amendment? Because you feel it's your right to own whatever kind of gun you want to an extent?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people out there that are completely ignorant about what the Second Amendment is and what it says and why it says what it says.
Yeah.
And if anyone begins a sentence, well, you can have your gun for hunting or you can have a pistol to protect yourself, like you immediately already don't understand the context of the Second Amendment.
What is the context of the Second Amendment?
The context of the Second Amendment is very basic, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's that the people should be armed again to withhold certain powers from the government, in which that we are governed by our own consent. So we are an armed society. The government governs us by our consent, and we arm ourselves to kind of keep the government at bay in terms of their powers, because we were founded in an 18th century violent revolution in which an armed populace protected themselves from the world, at that time the world's greatest military power. So it's not to say that we should rebel or have any sort of warfare. It's to say, like, hey, we're an armed society by tradition. You have no right to tell us that we can't have these guns. It's enshrined in the Bill of Rights, in the Second Amendment specifically. And the Second Amendment very specifically says why you have those guns. And it's not to hunt, and it's not to protect your family, and it's not for sport. It's a well-regulated militia necessary for a free state.
Okay.
I mean, like it's pretty obvious what it says.
So then what about, we have the shooting in Sandy Hook. We have all these other things that start popping up, more shootings, more school shootings, stuff like, the Dark Knight. Where does that all fall into this? Like, then there is this cry. You're going to have to bring me up to speed. I remember there was one that you kept saying that the lawmakers had a chance to do this olive branch, right?
Yeah.
Real recently.
Background checks.
Right.
So, the background check thing that the Republicans kind of passed on in the Senate and the House, never even voted on it, would have created a federal system in which people had to get background checked for mental illness or if they were a felon and things of this nature. Because you can go to a lot of states and go to a gun show, whatever, and just buy whatever you want. And no one really has any way to regulate that. And that seemed kind of natural to me. I don't see anything really wrong with that. The reason people are concerned about that is because it would create a national gun registry, which the legislation in particular that was passed on or whatever makes illegal for that to ever happen. So you kind of have to trust that the legislation is honest or whatever. I'm against the national gun registry as well.
Because then if something did happen and the government went crazy, or the government became evil, they'd come to those houses, right?
Well, they would know who had the guns and where the guns were and stuff like that, and I don't think that's the government's business. Now, it's not to say, like, I had a conversation with a good friend of ours about why, and I think I changed his mind pretty radically on gun control, because I was telling him the government now is not tyrannical. There's nothing, the Obama administration, its future administrations are fine. Like, what we're not understanding is that these laws are made to protect what-if situations, and we don't know what's going to happen in 50 years or whatever if you just want to, trim down the Second Amendment so you can only have pistols or things of this nature. It's silly to give away rights for free for no reason. Like, you never know when you're going to need to invoke these rights, just like you never know when, you might need to invoke the Fourth Amendment. You might need to invoke the First Amendment. The 10th Amendment happens all the time at a state level. You never know when you're going to need to invoke these, and just because the Second Amendment seems somewhat antiquated, and it is in a way, it was put in place for a very specific reason, and that reason it transcends time, because tyranny also transcends time. We are governed by a government in which we give them their consent. They are not allowed to disarm us. I think the rhetoric about the Second Amendment is kind of scary, to be honest with you, because I just don't think people understand what they're doing and how unique the United States is compared to a lot of other countries where you can't own any sort of gun. And I cringe thinking about. I don't own guns. I like guns. I like shooting them. They're fun. They're a lot of fun.
We both want to own guns, though.
I just don't.
You got video games to buy.
Yeah, the way I look at it in terms of respect for the people I live with is I don't know how they feel about me owning guns or whatever. And when I have my own house one day, I'm going to own guns. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I like shooting them, and I like the idea in my head of a society of a republic of 310 million people in which anyone can have a gun. And when you look at the violence, which is tragic every time it happens, when you really consider the fact that there are about as many guns in this country as there are people, and these things happen a few times a year, whatever, and it's very tragic, that's actually mathematically very low. A lot of people try to ignore a lot of where the gun crime happens and what specific guns are used for gun crime and stuff like that. And the specific legislation and the kind of opportunism that's used after these kinds of events ignores those kinds of things. Sandy Hook's a very good example because the Sandy Hook tragedy, which was horrifying in many ways. Not the least of which is that it targeted innocent, helpless children.
Sure.
The fact of the matter is an assault rifle ban wouldn't have stopped this, nor would have background checks stopped this, because the guns were purchased legally by Adam Lanza's mother, who then taught her mentally handicapped son how to shoot guns, and then was very surprised when he stole her assault rifles, killed her, and then went into a school and killed everyone.
Right.
That to me is parental responsibility.
Right, this comes back to something we always have to talk about when we talk about video games, right? That you just want to blame the source, but in reality, there's a parent who wasn't watching what was happening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's sad. You know, a vast majority of gun deaths are gang related in this country, and they are done by pistols. So if you can have a pistol and you can arm yourself with a pistol, which everyone concedes, then what is the point of having this gun legislation if it's not going to nip the problem in the bud of violence? See, that's why everyone's it's all opportunistic, and frankly, the NRA is opportunistic too.
That's what I was about to bring up then. Yeah, the NRA, the one here, MattMcDonald, put them in as a topic. How do you see the NRA? Are they similar? Do you think when we talk about republicanism, right, and how you're this kind of Republican, but there's all these other Republicans out there making a bad name for it? Is it similar there in this?
I think the NRA serves an interesting purpose in the sense that they do protect gun owners' rights from a lot of people, like I said, that talk about the Second Amendment have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Yeah. Which is a vast majority of people you hear talking about the Second Amendment. No idea. Never read the Federalist Papers. Never read the minutes from the Constitutional Convention. Have no idea where the Bill of Rights came from. Have no idea why it was enshrined in the Second Amendment. But they like to talk a lot about it. I will give the NRA credit that they do know why the Second Amendment exists, and they're not afraid to talk about it. That it's not even when James Madison and John Jay and all these guys were at the Constitutional Convention, they were thinking about an add-on to the Constitution in the form of the Bill of Rights. They weren't like, you know what, we need to make sure you can have your flintlock and your musket so you can protect your family from robbers or anything like that. Or you can go hunting. Like everyone's like, of course you can go hunting, because it was the 18th century. They were like, no, like the Minutemen and our militia, our people's army were the reason that we are free. Yeah. And that is why it exists. And so I appreciate that the NRA kind of fights that fight, but they've become kind of a cartoon version of themselves lately as well.
Yeah. Is it because we can't have a national discourse about anything without it being two horrible extremes? Where Sandy Hook happens, everyone's like, ban all guns. So then there's like the rubber band effect that the other side has to be as crazy as, ban no guns, let me have a bazooka, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about that, but I think that there's a lot of dishonesty and disingenuousness on the side of the people that want to ban assault rifles and guns, because what they really want is a gun ban. No one will say it because they know it'll never in a million years happen in this country. There'll never be a ban on guns ever. You're really going to have a lot of trouble if you try to do something like that.
Yeah.
I wish that at least they were honest brokers about what they felt like, and they were like, yeah, we want to have a European-style gun ban where you can't have guns. At least be honest about it and stop trying to kind of nip around the bud and say, like, assault rifle bans are going to stop things like Sandy Hook, and background checks are going to stop things like Sandy Hook. Obviously, that's not true. So, I think that in most cases, I try to meet in the middle and be like, there's some sort of some sort of peace we can broker here.
Right.
But in this, I think that there's a lot of dishonesty on the side.
Okay,
of like,
so let's boil it down
yeah.
to finalize this whole argument. Because this is the thing, like, I know a lot of times I try to argue, play devil's advocate. This is one of those ones that I don't think anybody has it right. I don't think there is a solution yet. You know what I mean? Bad guys are always going to get bad guns, right? Like, so shouldn't good guys have the opportunity to have guns? Like, I want a gun.
Yeah.
I'm poor.
Yeah, I mean, that's the NRA says that a lot, and it's true. Like, the only way you stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. That's true. And bad guys are always going to find guns. In European violence, in the Norway shooting or whatever at that children's camp where the guy killed like 70 kids.
Yeah.
Guns are, you can't have firearms like that unless you're hunting in Norway or whatever. It didn't stop him from doing what he's going to do. Those people are going to exist. What we need to stress in this country is a notion of personal responsibility. In this case, Adam Lanza's mom is responsible, just as responsible as he is for what happened. She's the one who taught him how to shoot, showed him where the guns were, and all those kinds of things. She bought those guns legally. If she had a background check, she still would have gotten them, and all those guns were legal anyway. The gang shootings in Chicago or New York or LA are much more problematic in terms of gun deaths, but no one's talking about banning the pistols, although a lot of people would want to.
Sure.
So I'm just saying that there's a lot of dishonesty there, and what it really boils down to me, what really bothers me about it at the end of the day is that people don't understand the Second Amendment and why it exists. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that we have to have cause for armed rebellion or whatever. It's not about that. It's about saying like, hey man, this is our tradition. Like, we own guns. You have no right to tell us what we do with our guns. Get out of our business. That's the way it goes in the United States. That's the way it's supposed to be. This is a people's republic, So that's it.
All right. Well, that was a good conversation, huh? It's a very well-requested one. So thank you, Matt. Thank you, Fox Cub. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this show. What do you think about gun control and the NRA? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you have a conversation. Hit us up on Twitter. We love to talk to you there. And then make sure you leave future suggestions in the comments. Thank you so much. Have a conversational day.
So if a gay man wants to marry another gay man, or a woman wants to marry another woman or whatever, like, who the fuck cares?